Hi everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Project. I read 2 books over the weekend, Jeff Doherty's Confessions of an Exorcist and Sister of Darkness from R.H. Stavis. It was actually a video from Jeff that made me interested in this topic of exorcism. He did a short video on exorcism without Jesus. And this reminded me back in 2015, I did a short video on the logical dilemma that's found in the Bible in the book of Mark 3:20. And I'll link to everything below so you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, I'm trying to understand reality with the totality of information available to me, and that totality is chronicled on my website, overwatchproject.com. I have a rolling blog there. I put new stuff on it just about every day. Some of it is kind of funny or relevant or just something I'm interested in. Other things are directly related to what I'm doing here on my website. Sort of pointing everybody to all the information I've looked at, whether it be in my links section with all these links of data that you can look through, or Mindfuel, which is basically a lot of books that I've gone through. And if you can see what I'm working with here. So basically my whole theory is that, hey, if you look at all this information, if you look at what everybody's saying, put it all together in totality, it shows that we are caught in a deceptive reality, basically a soul farm or a reincarnation trap. That's what I've been trying to tell people. But you have to look at that for yourself. You have to do your own research, be your own guru, be your own detective. So like I said, I bought Jeff Doherty's Confession of an Exorcist. You can get it on Amazon for Kindle for about $5. There's a hardcover or a paperback version, I think, on his website, and a DRM-free ebook version. That's the one I bought. And for Rachel or R.H. Stavis, depending on what name she's using, but on her book she says R.H. Stavis. There's this Newsweek article that talks about her. She talks about being able to remove demons without the power of Christ. Now, like I said, Mark 3:20 basically says that if anybody's doing that cannot therefore be satanic. Somebody, is accusing Jesus in that passage of being able to exorcise demons because he's basically working with them, and his response is, no, that wouldn't work. You can't have a house divided against itself. And you can take a look at that short video I made for yourself and see what I'm talking about there. But I did go through their books, and both of them are good. I'll tell you the good stuff up front. Both of them are very interesting to read. They're both from the first person perspective. Jeff Doherty, Confessions of an Exorcist, and R.H. Stavis, Sister of Darkness. They talk about their personal life experiences. Let me go through Jeff's book first. So it's only about 155 pages long, but it says a lot. He has a good writing style. I like it when people can deliver to the point and still have all the information in there to draw me in. That book definitely does it. You need to know a lot of background information if you're going to really get this book, though. Confessions of an Exorcist depends on that. You already have some understanding of the soul farm, reincarnation trap, or sort of a Gnostic philosophy of reality. And if you do that, then his book will make a lot more sense to you. He talks about these other gurus, which unfortunately I'm going to say Rachel kind of falls into that category. These other people that are performing these exorcisms that he calls myopic, or they have a single focus. I call it like tunnel vision. Jeff, in his book, we'll get back to that tunnel vision when I'm talking about Rachel's book, but in his book he has interesting theories, some of which I agree with, some of which I don't. The astral holographic technology is a very interesting concept that he has in this book, and I do agree with it. I do think that sometimes we are the ones being pulled into the astral or the non-physical realm without realizing it and interacting with entities some people interact with these entities in sort of like an in-between realm, but it's because we're being pulled there, not because they're coming here. For example, Rachel Stavis is quite one of these people that has that 1 foot in this material world and 1 foot in the non-material world, like kind of like Jenny Moonstone described in the Clearwater meetup, if you remember that from just a few months ago. And some people are like that, so they're very in tune with non-physical realities that are all around us, and most people are so grounded into the material that they are completely oblivious to anything else besides this matter deception that we exist in. And so I do agree with that. I don't agree with Jeff in his book where he kind of like dismisses the ability for any entities to really enter our reality, because I think that does happen. And I'll cover that later with like UFO abduction and stuff like that, where there's this sort of two things going on. Sometimes they are physical, sometimes they are not. And how could that be? Well, I really think that the grays, and I'll get into this a little bit more later, are just bodies that non-physical entities can occupy out of convenience when they want to operate in our reality. So is there saucers and everything else and all the tech that you see them using here. This is really archonic activity, or archons, or agents of the matrix, of our matrix reality that we live in, that they are just sort of like able to operate in the material world under certain circumstances. So outside of that, though, Jeff's book is really easy to follow if you know a little bit of Gnostic philosophy, and I think he has a lot of great points in there. One of them that he emphasizes a lot, and I think Rachel does too in her own way, is that really the power to cast away unwanted entities comes from us, from within, from anybody that has that divine spark or that spirited consciousness, that added self-awareness, that we are not, like some of these mindless people out there. We are completely aware and in tune with what's going on, and we have the, just by sheer will and intention, we can actually just do this stuff. As long as we're not afraid, as long as we're not tricked into submitting to some external entity, we have all the power within us to cast away these things. We don't really need to summon the name of anybody else but ourselves. And I do believe that. I think that is absolutely accurate. And toward the end of Jeff's book, he talks about Carlos Castaneda and the Don Juan experience there. He thinks that was authentic, but it actually may have happened more in the astral, that Don Juan may have been communicating with Carlos in a non-physical environment. And I kind of I think that's a really interesting theory. I kind of believe that. He covers a little bit of his prior book, Serpents and Doves, and basically comes off with a positive message of being your own guru. There's a very nice summary at the end. And, these rogue entities are the result of a rogue demiurge. That's the way he kind of includes that information in the book, and I totally agree with that. So Rachel, or R.H. Stavis, she is involved in a lot of things in the entertainment business out in California, including the gaming industry. So she is, I think, a gamer, if I understood her book correctly in some of the interviews I've listened with her. And I listened to her book. It was about 6.5 hours long. She reads the book on the Audible version. It was well read. It's, again, just like Confessions of an Exorcist, Sister of Darkness is a book that you definitely get into listening to her stories. It is worth a listen. The problem I have with her book is that while she clearly is well informed on a whole variety of cultures and different religions, and she has her own view of reality, not one time during the entire book does she mention any knowledge of anything besides what really sounds to me like the typical New Age light worker stuff that you get from everybody that does that kind of thing. Matter of fact, that's the one of the big problems I have with her book is that I really don't get where the title came from, Sister of Darkness, because really it's like the way she talks, what she describes is the typical stuff that you get from these light workers. You know, she's working with the Archangel Michael when she needs to, and she's working with the Virgin Mary shows up when she needs it, and she talks to spirit. She refers to source. Now, what source? What source is she referring to? Because the source that she refers to also apparently infests the world with these demonic, or she just calls them entities. She has different categories of them, like the Clive and the Wraith, and a very interesting description of different types of entities that she's purging from people. And in reality, though, she covers a whole bunch of information. Probably the most fascinating part of her book is when she talks about the the Alyssa Lamb disappearance, and then she was found dead in the water tower in that Hotel Cecil out there. And she goes into this really interesting information about the Cecil Hotel I never heard of before, and I had to go look it up. And her theory about what really happened to Alyssa Ham, the whole book is worth listening to. But I just cannot believe when she refers to Buddhism, Hinduism, witchcraft, Christianity. She covers a whole bunch of worldviews, and not a single time does it ever stop her to consider the possibility that, hey, those light beings, those ascended masters, gurus, shamans, those spirit beings that she works with, like what she calls Archangel Michael, I would call Archangel Michael. These beings are also just a different type of parasite, or as I believe that all of this is trickery of the Matrix. If you can call this reality that we exist in like a real Matrix that is basically a soul farm. Now, whether it was created to be one, or maybe it was once upon a time a world where non-physical beings entered and exited physical bodies at will to experience a material plane, and this whole thing was invaded by some kind of demiurge, or whether or not it was created this way, I'm not sure. But clearly there's a lot of information. Like I said, I base my view of reality on a lot of different worldviews, a lot of different people, science, religion, history. I've made several videos of it before. I don't have tunnel vision when it comes to this stuff. I go through a lot of material, and I see that this is the only explanation that fits all the data. So my view of reality has to fit the totality of the information I'm looking at. And I'm afraid that she is lacking some of that information. So she has, and this is really curious to me, and there's some articles like from that I'll link to that show that, several other so-called light workers or whatever they do not see reality the way that R.H. Stavis does anymore. They've realized that they've been played. And I'm curious that somebody that as advanced as she is in a lot of things that she knows has no mention of any Gnostic philosophies, nothing about the demiurge, archons, reincarnation being a trap. It doesn't even occur to her. And that's the biggest letdown on her book versus Jeff Doherty, Confessions of an Exorcist, where he does definitely cover some of that philosophy in that book. Even though it's only 155 pages long, there's a lot of things in there. And I find it funny that on Amazon, he has a 3-star review on that book, and the person that basically wrote the review admits that they don't know what he's talking about. And if you don't know a lot of this information, you might not understand what I'm talking about. And so my audience is kind of like a small group of people out there that get what I'm saying. But either way, I still recommend both books as good reads, good listens to, good to listen to. You see, like, you know what I think? It works like this. We're the lions. The archons, these ascended masters, the archon angel Michael, whatever shape-shifting thing these beings are, they either feed on love or fear, and they want to feed on us. But we're really like these lions, right? Sometimes I think we're like these lions that have been fooled by these beings that aren't as powerful as we are. And they've convinced us to submit to them through fear, through memory wipes, through indoctrination and brainwashing. And we have really been, and as above, so below. We do it to the animals here, and we are the ones that are more powerful and tricked into thinking that we are the ones that have the original sin. We're the ones who somehow are sandwiched in between evil entities that want to be parasites on us and these, so informed, so spiritual ascended masters and archangels, and they want to help us though, and we worship them and we work with them, and really what I think has happened is people like Rachel Stavis clearly have a connection and added awareness of the non-physical. And when that happens, the agents of the Matrix have to go into high swing. They have to take her and control her. They have to feed her ego, and they have to feed her belief system with the right level of BS so she can go around and be the hero and not question those who supposedly guide her. Because after all, these beings, if you read her book, it's kind of funny. They kept her in the dark for like the first 20, 25 years of her life. They let her think that they let her be criticized. They let her go through a rough childhood. And of course, she basically sort of dismissively or without thinking refers to the source, which I think the source that she is referring to is what we call the demiurge, or the Jeff Doherty calls it that source, the rat bastard. But that source is just playing her, really, is what I think is going on. Because if you look at I'm going to be linking to a lot of information for anybody who's interested. This is all the links that you'll find in the description section below, where I'm going to ask you to do your own investigation, to make your own judgment on this stuff. I'm just pointing you to information like I do on every video and telling you what I think about it, but in reality you have to do your own thing. One other thing that this branches all fall into is everything is sort of connected once you look at everything. Alien abduction, what people identify as aliens, UFO phenomena, that stuff, is also connected. These entities from these UFOs, they say the same BS that she's getting from her ascended masters and stuff like that. They all tell us the same BS. Here's a group called Alien Resistance. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but this is the typical thing I see, because it's very difficult to actually see the totality of reality if you get sucked from one BS system to another. And believe me, they're all, the Matrix is willing to provide a menu of belief systems and incomplete pictures of reality that will suit just about everyone. It will make just about anyone comfortable. They just have to find their little lie that they like best. So whether it's a religion or it's a spirituality or it's a atheistic worldview, the Matrix has you covered. Only a few people can that can look at this stuff with a little bit of dispassionate view, don't let your emotions get in the way, can see what it is. But here you have alien resistance. Now these are former MUFON guys that left MUFON because MUFON wasn't taking some of the things they were finding in their UFO investigations seriously enough. And basically what's going on here is you have like former atheists who then became sort of spiritualists who now became Christians because they discovered some cases where the alien abduction phenomena was stopped when just like a demonic phenomena. It was basically people who said, in the name of Jesus, get out of here, and the aliens flee. But once again, you have to dig deep. You have to get a total picture of what's going on. You have to look at all the information. As I mentioned before, one UFO investigator who mysteriously died in the mid-90s of a sudden cancer after publishing 4 books and going on several speaking tours where she gives a presentation on all of her research into the UFO phenomena. If you watch just this one video here, this one presentation from her, Carla Turner, Dr. Carla Turner, has done amazing work before she passed away. And she points out that, hey, you know what? The alien in these UFO abductions, they behave in a manner that it's also consistent with some of this spiritual activity. She points out cases where they bring out Jesus to calm people down. So on one hand, you have aliens that pretend to be repelled by the name of Jesus, get out. On the other hand, you have them bringing him in. Also, there are cases that she points out in her books and in some of her presentations where the aliens laugh when you say, in the name of Jesus, go in. They sort of laugh and chuckle. So a lot of this stuff is haphazard at best, but in this one interview, she does point out that people have the power. She mentions that again, that people have the power within themselves somehow to be able to repel these beings. And this is why I think that we're like the lions. We just don't realize what has been done to us. We are like these lions. We are powerful. And we have been abused. In turn, some people abuse animals like lions. We do to creatures of this earth, a lot of times, what the archons do to us. Mess with them. We behave like they do. They've made us into parasitic beings sometimes, requiring us to eat meat and eat basically other life to survive, which is basically, I think, what they do to us. Survive off of our force, our eternal divine spirit that provides energy for them like a battery. And they need to keep us here, and they need to keep us stupid to maintain the illusion that they are in control, that they are of a hierarchy higher than us, and we should love and worship them and work with them because they can help us get rid of these other entities. One of the things in Jeff's book that he mentions is that some of these entities are actually created by us, which makes total sense to me. We are these creative, imaginative, conscious beings that aren't even human, stuck in meat suits, walking around the earth, and really, like with amnesia, we're sort of like an idiot with a loaded gun, right? So we create some of our own problems. I know personally that I have created through my mind some problems I've had, and then I've had to deal with my own mess that I've made and get rid of it. And like Jeff Doherty says in his book, some of these beings are manifestations. You can call them thought forms or tulpas. We create them because we generate them from our own imagination and creative powers. And therefore, then we create our own worst enemies. R.H. Davis doesn't even address that in her book, where she perceives all these entities as being, parasites that, I guess, roam around the earth and just attach to people like ticks or leeches. and feed off of us. But it's clear when you read some of the cases she's working with that some of these creatures may have actually been created by the persons that have them bothering them. I'm just saying. That's what it sounds like to me. So all we have to do is realize what we really are. And you've seen or heard, I'm sure, of what happens when a lion realizes that the lion tamer isn't really as strong as he's been led to believe, or she's been led to believe. And then you know what happens after that. So, look, when we finally die here, if you're on your last reincarnation cycle, it is really just with your thought and intention you can travel anywhere. Remember, you won't have a physical body anymore. You have the power to go anywhere, including outside of the whole universe here, so you can see it for yourself and then explore a multiverse and then even an omniverse beyond that. Who knows how many realities are out there and how many of them are so much better than here, where we dismiss all the suffering and evil and terrible things going on in the world and somehow justify this place as a wonderful place to be, where our minds are contaminated with an archon mind virus that can't even have us properly reasoning the same way when it comes to social constructs, when it comes to religion, when it comes to anything to do with the non-physical. We can't reason the same way as when we come together to build a skyscraper or a rocket to go into space or anything like that, because we cannot reason with certain things because we are designed, our brains are designed to interfere with our consciousness, to reduce it, to shrink it down to this pathetic level where it's a real struggle or an impossibility for some people to even be able to perceive anything beyond the material, and they're stuck in their atheistic worldviews, and they may have, with their own minds, actually blocked out anything non-physical. So both books, definitely worth the read. I hope that everything I said made sense. Remember to check out my website, overwatchproject.com. And I have a blog there that I update sometimes several times a day. Last few days, not so much. Some of the stuff here covers any topic. It could be television shows. It could be news, science, religion, other people's YouTube videos, which I link to a lot of, stuff about consciousness. Just check it out. Look at all the links, all the books under the Mind Fuel tab. Tons of other great reads there. But these two books I highly recommend also. So I'll be adding them to my Mind Fuel page in a few days after I update my site again. So that's it. I hope you liked my video. For this wallpaper that you see here, if you like this really cool wallpaper I downloaded the other day. I actually found it on DeviantArt, but I found the artist's actual homepage, which is Yumi or iArt. I don't know how to pronounce that. YUUMEIART.com. Looks like he does work for graphic novels. I thought that this piece of wallpaper art here had some really interesting stuff in it. What if we see what we want? There's like a little bit of tyranny going on there in that symbolism. You are free, but then you're not, because underneath it says follow your dreams, but it says canceled. Very interesting artwork. So I'll add that too to the description section below if you want to check out his webpage. And Jeff Doherty's book, Confessions of an Exorcist. Like I said, I read it in ebook, but Kindle is like $4.99, I think. And I forget what I paid for Rachel's book. I think it listed for $19 for the Audible, but I had a credit, so I got it for the credit. All right. You guys take care. I'll see you next time on Overwatch Project. On BitChute, or now it's called Speak Out, at Overwatch Project. On YouTube at Overwatch Channel. And of course, you can get to everything from my main website, overwatchproject.com. Okay, coming up to the 30-minute mark. Time to end this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.